The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the trial that inspired the new Netflix documentary that everyone is talking about, The Perfect Neighbor. It's a tragic story about 4 children who lost their mother due to a senseless neighborhood feud and one woman's rage. Here's the story. In the quiet streets of Ocala, Florida, a mother named Ajike Owens raised 4 children, her home a haven of love and trust. That house, however, would soon become the epicenter of a tragedy captured in raw detail. On June 2nd, 2023, neighbor Susan Lorincz stood behind her locked front door and fired her gun, killing Ajike through the threshold. The case exploded onto screens and tablets when Netflix released The Perfect Neighbor, a documentary assembled from police body cam footage, 911 audio, and detective interviews. But before the movie, in a trial broadcast live here on Court TV, jurors were shown the chilling interview where Lorincz claimed she had no choice, citing Florida's stand your ground in self-defense law. But the jury rejected it. In August of 2024, she was found guilty of manslaughter and received a 25-year sentence. Now serving time behind bars, Lorincz watches her perfect neighbor image crumble as the documentary reignites the debate. When is a door a defense, and when is it a coffin? This story gets you angry, makes you sad as well. The documentary on Netflix, everyone obviously talking about it. They put together all the body cam video and the interviews, but we gave you the trial first here at Court TV. And the backstory is, the way I would describe Susan Lorincz, the defendant, the shooter, the killer in this case, is she was kind of like that neighborhood grouch who gets mad, get off of my lawn kind of thing. The only problem is, she really didn't have a lawn. The kids were playing in a lot next door to where she lived. She worked and lived at home. She didn't do much. She didn't get out much. She lived by herself. And she just got aggravated with the kids playing all the time. Kids playing. Like, that's what kids do in neighborhoods in empty lots. That's what you want them doing. So what I want to start with is the night of the shooting. So this sort of feud and tension had been brewing in the neighborhood for over a year. There have been calls, etc. We'll get into that. But I want to focus right now on what happened that day, that night of the shooting. And you're going to listen to interview, 911 call, and you're really getting it from her perspective for the most part, but not entirely. Let's take a look.
How many times have you guys been able to communicate in that 1.5 or 2 years?
2 or 3 times.
2 or 3 times.
Her son, early in the night, before I called the police, I don't know how old he is, but he said, I'm going to make sure you get killed tonight.
Which son? She has 2 sons.
I know. I can't remember. It was one of her sons, but he was there. He's like, I'm going to make sure you get killed. I'm going to make sure that, you know. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Has this person ever shown you a weapon or anything like that?
No. But, I mean, the little kid said it, and then all of a sudden his mom's coming over, and she's banging and screaming, and the kids kept putting things out. They had marbles by my truck. They put their skates out. I tripped over the skate one morning that I had to leave very early, and I'm like, crap. And I'm like, stop leaving your freaking toys here, you know. I'm not the most stable person, you know, with my knees and stuff like that. So when I'm walking, if I fall again, you know, who the hell knows what's going to happen.
She made a statement, something to the effect of, why'd you take my kid's iPad? Okay, somebody heard her say that.
I never touched an iPad. I never saw the iPad. I don't know what this iPad is about.
A tablet or something like that?
Again, no tablet, no iPad, no electronics at all. It was never there, or at least I never saw it.
Okay.
So I have no idea.
Was she, maybe she's wrong, but was she asking you about a tablet or accusing you of something with a tablet or an iPad? I don't know if it's an iPad or a tablet. She could have.
Is there
I
any
don't
reason?
know what this tablet thing is.
It's like an Amazon tablet, electronic tablet.
I never saw the tablet, never. He kept saying, where's my tablet? Where's my tablet? I had one.
Oh, so he did ask you about it, but you didn't have it.
Of course not.
So you never.
I never saw it, never picked it, never touched it up, and nothing.
Why would he make that part up?
I have no idea.
Because he said, and it really doesn't change.
Doesn't change.
It doesn't change anything. I'm just trying to understand. He said that he was going to the basketball courts after they played in the field. He's like, I forgot my tablet, and he comes over and he sees you holding it, and he says, put it down.
No.
And you kind of tossed it down, and then that's when you threw the skates, and one of them hit him in the toe or the foot or something like that.
No, because they were standing here, and I threw it with my left hand.
Okay.
I made sure that I didn't. I just threw him over to the other side.
And that's when you told him to fetch or something?
Yes.
You told him to
I
fetch
said, you can
it?
go fetch it over there now.
What was she saying again?
She's like, you can't talk to my sons that way. I'm like, you're trespassing,
So you were communicating with her through the door?
Yeah, I'm like, all right, just leave. I don't want to hear it. No, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. And I didn't think too much of it until she really started pounding that door. I'm like, oh my God. Then I got scared, like terrified, scared.
Now, you had initially called, did you call 911 or
Yeah,
did you use the emergency number when you called?
When the first time, because kids said, I'm going to kill you, my friends kill you. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell's going on now? I'm like, I don't need this aggravation.
Okay. So you called, was it 911?
Yeah, I called 911.
Okay. And that was before Ajike came over?
Before she came over.
And the kid, okay, so we get, like, as the deputies are responding, the call taker's talking to you, they're putting information that you're telling them into the computer, which goes to us as we're going out there. So in that call notes, there's never any mention of you saying that they said that they're going to kill you. It was more or less that they're harassing you, that they're...
Oh, no, I told the lady that they said they were going to kill me.
Okay.
No, I was very specific when I spoke.
You said that you kept the firearm in the trash can in the bedroom, so at some point, did you go...
Yes.
So you thought about it and said, I might need this, or...
Absolutely. I got terrified. I was so terrified she was going to come in and kill me.
When you're inside the house and she's on the other side of a door that you can't see through and she's pounding on the door, you make the conscious decision to aim your gun at the door and fire one round, right? Just one round?
Yes.
And did you call 911 immediately after?
As soon as I found my phone.
Okay. How much time do you think after you fired the shot? So within a minute?
Within a minute,
And you immediately called 911?
So they just tried to break down my door. You said someone tried to break down your door, is that correct? Yes, the woman was screaming and yelling and she was trying to break down my door and she was... Okay, was a female? Yes. I didn't know what to do. I grabbed my gun and I shot at the door. And I thought they were going to kill me.
It starts that day, at least. There's some dispute about whether or not she took the kid's tablet, and then there's a tossing of roller skates, and it ends up with her, the mother of the children, coming over, banging on the door, and then Susan Lorincz shooting the mom, Ajike Owens, through the door, through the locked, bolted door, metal door, shooting through it, one shot, and killing her. By the way, when she's at the door, she's there with her 9-year-old. All of that brings us to the first question in our investigation. Why did everything escalate? How do we go from roller skates, tablets, to a call about harassment, to shooting and killing a mother of 4? Here to help answer that question, private investigator Lauren Vellucci and psychiatrist, forensic specialist, and medical health expert, Dr. Yalda Safai. Great to have you both here. Lauren, what are your thoughts here on the escalation that night, right? Like, we know there's been tension throughout, but that night, it seems like it all started when the kids were in that side yard playing next door to her, and there were roller skates and a tablet. How do we go from that to shooting and killing this mom of 4?
Well, I mean, it seems very apparent that you have a grumpier older woman who just has a disdain for children. So I tend to believe the kids on this one, that she was taking their property and throwing it and taunting them. She was even calling them racial slurs, which is unacceptable. And because of that, I think that probably was the final straw. And the mom came over to want to have a little chat because it's her child, and I get that. And so it just escalated from there, and unreasonable things happened when they didn't have to happen.
Dr. Safai, let's talk about both parties here. Let's talk about the killer first, and then let's talk about the mom and how we got to this escalation of emotions and ultimately escalation of force to deadly force. What are your thoughts?
So it seems like things escalated pretty quickly when in fact it didn't. From my experience, things like this don't just happen. There's usually background and context. And in this case, it required weeks or I don't know, even months of anger, resentment, irritation building up in this woman. When these things build up, you oftentimes need a trigger to act out or do something violent. In this case, the trigger for her was the mother knocking on her door. So you get a lot of anger and resentment and hate in this woman that was brewing for a long time, combining with the trigger. And unfortunately, the ultimate tragedy happened here. I've seen this happen all the time. When there's a lot of anger and resentment in a person, they just need a trigger to act out. And this is exactly what happened.
And how about for Ajike Owens? What is it that makes her go across the street and bang on this woman's door at 9 o'clock at night?
You know, it looks like from the documentary, she was just being a mother. Yeah.
No, go ahead, doctor.
She was just being a mother. I mean, if somebody does something to your kid, yells at your kid or threatens your kid, you go into mama mode, right? You become a mama bear and try to defend your kid. So I don't really blame this woman for doing what she did. She was just trying to protect her kid.
Lauren Vellucci, what do you think happens if instead of firing through the door, Susan Lorincz opens the door? What do we think happens?
I think she would have encountered a pissed neighbor who had messed with her children, and there would have been an exchange. But I think it all comes down to the fact that this lady, Susan, had been mistreating these children. So had Susan opened the door and had an adult conversation, it would have de-escalated the situation, I believe. If she's greeted her and, okay, tell me what you're upset about. Let's go through this. You're my neighbor. I don't want to have these type of arguments with you. I think that would have calmed her completely down, and this whole situation would have been fixed with communication, which I don't think we have enough in our system today.
Dr. Safai, why didn't she wait? She had already called police. They were on their way. Why did she fire through a locked, bolted metal door and not just wait, I don't know, another minute, 2 minutes, whatever it is, knowing that police were about to arrive?
You know, that would have been the rational thing to do, correct? And she's no stranger to the police. She had called the police many times before. But in my opinion and what I've seen, when people are under a significant amount of stress, they don't think rationally and they act before they think. And this Florida Stand Your Ground law is done just that. It's given people the permission to act before they think. And I think this is what happened in her case.
All right, guests are staying with us. Coming up next, was there any way to prevent the shooting?
Verdict as to count one. We, the jury, find as to count one of the charge. The defendant is guilty of manslaughter.
The Court TV podcast will return.
Show me your hands! Show me your hands! Turn around! Turn around! Where's your gun at? You got hands? got hands? You're going to be detained. Is there anybody else in the house?
There's somebody else in the house. Can I just get my phone?
No, not right now.
All right.
You're not under arrest. You're being detained.
Okay, I understand.
Come over here.
Wait, can you close the door? I have two cats inside.
Hold on.
I want the cats to run out.
I need medics.
That's just moments after the shooting. She's put in cuffs, she's detained, and then the investigation begins, and it takes a while before the arrest. It's not an automatic arrest in a case where you allege self-defense down in Florida because of the Florida laws. So sheriffs and deputies, they've got to investigate all the facts and then come to their determination. She was actually interviewed twice. She's interviewed that night and then comes back for a second interview and is then officially charged. I want you to take a look, as we've been discussing this night, it wasn't a one-night deal here. It wasn't like all of a sudden this happened. There was tension brewing in the neighborhood. You go back 16 months before the shooting. There's another incident, this one involving Susan Lorincz and the victim, Ajike Owens, the mom. And again, it's Susan who calls 911 on the mom, accusing the mom of throwing a no trespassing sign at her. Let's take a look at some of that video.
I'm sorry, my heart's thumping. I just didn't know she was going to actually get physical with me.
What the sign?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and that's not cool. You don't get physical. I mean, that's ridiculous.
She just threw it?
No, she whipped it at me. I mean, she hit me.
She's showing her sign, showing her sign, like almost like she went and bought a little private property sign and she stuck it in there. So she has a sign. She's basically like, sign in the space, and then when she went to pick it back up, I picked the sign up and I threw the sign. I literally picked the sign up, and as I walked outside, I threw the sign. I said, I can go and buy a sign too instead of the meeting with them.
So there's a couple of things to take away from this. Number one, Susan Lorincz is putting no trespassing signs up in the small yard that's part of the unit that she's renting. And you've got the neighbor from across the street with the children that Susan is always getting so aggravated about, picking up that no trespassing sign and throwing it. Susan said it was thrown at her, but this resulted in no charges against anyone. Which brings us to the next question in our investigation. Was there any way to prevent the shooting, which really is the escalation of what happened over the course of more than a year inside that neighborhood? Still with us, helping us with our investigation, is private investigator Lauren Vellucci and psychiatrist, a forensic specialist, medical health expert, Dr. Yalda Safai. Dr. Safai, what are your thoughts here? Because, you know, you cover a story like this, and I think it's something people may be able to relate to, that they've had situations or maybe a current situation in their neighborhood where things are tense. How can neighbors, what could have been done here when these tensions are continuing and not getting better, but seemingly getting worse?
So, Vinnie, this is what I tell my friends and family and patients all the time. You cannot control other people's behavior. All you can do is control your own behavior. I always say avoid confrontation with people you don't know at all costs. It is not worth it. There are a lot of unhinged people out there. You never know how they're going to behave. So be the first one to apologize. Walk away. Even if you think you are in the right and the other person is in the wrong, it's not worth it. Walk away. So my advice always is, Vinnie, if you see a person who is hot-tempered, who is agitated, do not do anything to make it worse. You never know how they're going to behave. Walk away. It's not worth it.
Lauren Vellucci, this is a situation where there were calls to 911, and it's always Susan Lorincz who's calling 911, complaining about this, complaining about that. Do you see any other ways that things could have calmed down rather than escalated inside of that neighborhood?
Yeah, Susan could have packed up her stuff and went to a 55-year and older subdivision where she wouldn't have had to deal with children exuding joy while they're playing outside. But if she wasn't willing to do that, yeah, I mean, I just don't know if there could have been like some kind of an intervention, because this wasn't just this one lady, Owens's children. She was doing this to children all over the neighborhood. So I don't know if that was something, but hindsight is 20/20. You know, it's hard to say that now because you don't think some random person is going to shoot through a metal door when they're inside their home safe. But, now we could kind of pick it apart a little bit and say, hey, maybe that would have been something that the neighborhood could have come together and done.
Yeah, you mentioned other people in the neighborhood. I want you to take a listen. This is another piece of the body cam video. And in this piece, you can hear someone else from the neighborhood reference Susan Lorincz, like understanding her and giving their perspective of what just happened here. Let's take a listen.
There is still someone with a gun.
She's inside.
Okay.
Where?
Bro, where? Ex-military. She's in the house, bro. That apartment.
Dr. Safai, you could hear, just like Lauren was saying, people in the neighborhood immediately are saying she did it on purpose, like they know her. This is an ongoing thing. So let's branch it out to the whole neighborhood. A neighborhood of families and kids, and everyone knows this is the neighborhood grouch. This is the one. Anything that the neighborhood collectively could have done here to try to bring down the temperature in that neighborhood?
This is tricky because it's not like they can evict her or, run her out of her house because she's annoying and grouchy, right? Going back to what I previously said, I think that the best way to deal with someone like this, a person who's agitated, a person who calls the police on you for doing absolutely nothing, is to avoid that person. When I was seeing this documentary, I thought to myself, if it were my kids, I would make sure to tell them to stay as far away as possible from this woman's lawn for their own safety as possible. So I think collectively what they could have done was to completely avoid this woman so she does not get agitated, she does not act out, she does not call the police. But really, there was no other option. It's not like they could have evicted her.
Yeah, and that's the problem here, right? Like you're not doing anything wrong, but you're the one who has to walk on eggshells, and your kids have to walk on eggshells. And think about this: the world we live in now, where our kids don't want to go outside. This is a neighborhood full of kids. That's all they wanted to do, was go out and play outside. Dr. Safai, Lauren Vellucci, so great to have you with us. Thank you so much. Still to come, we're going to dive into the law now. How does stand your ground / self-defense apply to this case?
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the trial that inspired the Netflix documentary, The Perfect Neighbor. 4 children are now growing up without a mom because of an unnecessary escalation of a neighborhood feud. Here's the story. For months, tension simmered in a Florida neighborhood, children playing in empty lots, 911 calls, and a neighbor's mounting frustration. That frustration boiled over when Susan Lorincz shot her neighbor, Ajike Owens, through a locked doorway, forever shattering a community. The story is laid bare in the Netflix documentary, The Perfect Neighbor, where raw police footage and testimony reveal how a dispute over roller skates became fatal. At the trial broadcast on Court TV, the jury faced the question of fear versus anger and ultimately convicted Lorincz of manslaughter in August of 2024. Now behind bars for 25 years, she watches the documentary unfold a truth she denied, the line between vigilance and vengeance. Okay, I want to shift things now to the law. The law. I want to put it on the screen. This is a part of the Florida Justifiable Use of Force statute, okay? I'm going to read it. A person who is in a dwelling or residence in which the person has a right to be has no duty to retreat. You don't have to run away. And has the right to stand his or her ground and use or threaten to use deadly force if he or she reasonably believes that using or threatening to use such force is necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm to himself or herself or another, or to prevent the imminent commission of a forcible felony. A person is presumed to have held a reasonable fear of imminent peril of death or great bodily harm to himself or herself or another when using or threatening to use defensive force that is intended to likely cause death or great bodily harm to another if the person against whom the defensive force was used or threatened was in the process of unlawfully and forcefully entering, and the person who uses the defensive force knew or had reason to believe that an unlawful and forcible entry or unlawful and forcible act was occurring or had occurred. Kind of thick in part, but this is part of the law that is relevant to this case. And that brings us to our question. How does stand your ground / self-defense apply to this case? And when we do this type of case in Florida, there's only one person we're going to call. Here to help answer that question, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Mark O'Mara, who led the high-profile defense of George Zimmerman in the trial surrounding the death of Trayvon Martin. Mark, great to have you here. Thank you so much for being here. Don't know if we could do this show without you tonight. This is what I'm going to do. I want to play for you about 3 minutes of the statements of the defendant in this case, so you get an idea and the audience has an idea of her mindset in the moment that she's firing this weapon. Let's take a listen.
When you're inside the house and she's on the other side of a door that you can't see through and she's pounding on the door, you make the conscious decision to aim your gun at the door and fire one round, right? Just one round?
Yes.
Fire one round. Were you trying to hit her, or were you trying to scare her off? Were you trying to make a loud noise to say, like, hey, I got a fucking gun, get away from my door? Or were you think like...
I was never intending to hit her. I just thought, I thought I hit really high, I was just like, kind of, this is the first time I ever really used it, where I was, like...
Not on a paper target.
Exactly. I was like, oh my God. So I was shaking. I was just so distraught at that point in time. I'm like, oh my God, she's really going to come to my house. And I was just like, all I could think is go away, go away, go away, go away. I absolutely refused for my life.
So this
was an absolute, it's either me or her. It's just like, holy shit.
But did you see her with a gun or another weapon or anything like that?
I don't know what she had on the outside. When my lights were off, so she came up, it was dark out. And I'm like, great, now she's pounding on my door. Now she's scaring the crap out of me. Now my door's moving, and I didn't have it properly secured. And the next thing I thought, she was going to be in my house, killing me. That's honest to God what I felt. It's not like, I'm fed up or anything. This was a real fear.
The deadbolt's activated. The door's closed. It's a block house. I'm just trying to understand what made you so in fear of this woman if you have these things between you.
When we had spoken previously on the other time when she screamed at me and I finally acquiesced, I said, whatever you want, I'm so sorry. She followed me a foot behind me up until I went into the house. I'm like, what the hell? She gave me the creeps.
Was your goal to shoot and kill her?
No.
What was your goal?
To shoot and hopefully, she'd hear the shot and dissipate.
But you took aim at the door, is that right?
Yes. I look up. I just when I read articles, I just go and see why the laws were. So I want to know why, like if they have an article, what happened in the situation, what
Well, Susan, I think you know the reason why I'm asking that question. You're smart, okay, and the reason is...
Oh, hell no, absolutely. I know what you're thinking. Did I look up the laws so I could do something? No, absolutely.
This is not a situation where you set something up to because you were tired of this person. You were tired of the situation that they put you in.
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
After you heard the door slam, what was the next thing you heard that drew your attention?
My wall in between our two apartments started shaking and like pounding on the wall. And it really scared me.
Okay. How long after you heard the door slam did you hear that pounding?
Very shortly, within a few minutes.
How would you describe the pounding?
It was very loud, and it scared me because the wall was shaking, and yeah.
Okay. That's okay.
And Mark, that second person who was testifying there, that's a neighbor who was describing the pounding on Susan's door by Ajike, the mom who shot and killed. All right, based on all of this, what's your analysis of how stand your ground / self-defense applies to this case or doesn't apply to this case? What's the analysis here?
Well, the analysis is the statute applies perfectly. This is exactly what you need to look at the statute for, determine whether or not she should be, in fact, immune from prosecution, or if, in fact, she was justified in using deadly force. And there's nuance to it. For example, the pounding on the door, that might leave somebody afraid, right? But the door was never opened. They never really entered the door. They never got inside, which, by the way, had she gotten inside, that was a burglary, a forcible felony that may have justified the shooting at that point. But what was really critical is what the defendant said about why she shot. She didn't shoot to kill. You're allowed to use deadly force only under very specific circumstances in Florida and most every other state in the union. And that is to protect yourself from the imminent use of great bodily force or death visited upon you. Then and only then you can use deadly force. She was frustrated. She was upset. She even said, I wasn't shooting at her. She literally said, I was not using the one right that I had under the statute, which is to use deadly force against somebody because of the imminent nature of the force being used against you. She said I was, in effect, wanting to scare her off, wanting to dissipate. That is absolutely not an appropriate use of deadly force, and it's not self-defense.
That I haven't heard anyone else make that argument, Mark. That's why you're here, right? Obviously, right? So the fact that she believes she's sort of mitigating her defense by saying, I didn't even mean to kill her, negates the use of that actual defense, because you're allowed to shoot to kill because you're shooting to kill because you believe you are in danger. And by saying that, I'm not even intending to do that, you are basically admitting that you don't feel that the danger is imminent.
That's it. Exactly right. Then you got it perfectly on the head, which is you can only use deadly force to repel an imminent use of deadly force against you. You cannot use a gun to scare. You cannot use a gun to say, get away from me. You can only use it in response to a reasonable fear. You have to think it is imminent that you're going to get hurt. Not just slapped on the face, but deadly force used against you or causing great bodily injury at the very least. Then and only then can you use deadly force. And you aim right from the center of mass because you're justified in doing it. You don't shoot at a door. You don't shoot at somebody who has not yet broken into your house. I thought the jury did a great job in getting it quite right because it is nuanced, right? There was the pounding on the door. One of us likes the door being bounced on by somebody at dark at night. But she knew who it was, and I really think what hurt her throughout the entire trial was that there was history. There was history of antagonism between the two of them. If you think about that, that is the second level of denying true use of deadly force in response to a self-defense event, because it was just the frustration. It was the antagonism that existed previously, and that, in my case, like you said, mitigates against proper use of deadly force under a self-defense theory.
Mark O'Mara, amazingly, you take a situation that is so nuanced and so complicated and you make it so simple that even the host here understands tonight. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, Mark, because everyone's talking about this story now. The Netflix documentary is blowing up. But if anyone just watched this segment, they're going to understand the law in Florida and how it works and how it doesn't work and how this would not be the right application. Mark O'Mara, great to have you. We'll speak again, obviously, in the very near future. How about that, folks? We got the answer, and it's so clear. Coming up next, probably the most important question at this point, how is the family doing now?
Ajike, A.J. Owens, is depending on us.
Yes.
Those 4 kids are depending on us.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
Please continue to keep the family and especially Ajike's 4 children in your prayers. Thank you.
So in the Netflix documentary, there's a lot of body cam video, and we've gone through it all as well. I remember covering this. There's one part of it, to me, that really is what this story should be about. And it's a moment that will break your heart, but this is a story that has broken our hearts. I want you to see the moment that an officer has to tell the family that AJ passed away. Let's watch.
I'll tell you. Today has been a very bad day. There's something bad that's happened. And y'all seen it, y'all understand it, y'all experienced it, right? Okay. Y'all love me? Okay. Y'all love Mom? All right. Well, I got some bad news to tell you. Mom is not coming back anymore. Come. No. Come here. Come over here. Listen to me. No, I know. Okay. It's okay. I know. Okay. I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I am sorry. I'm so sorry.
You can't go home.
She's home. Okay. It's all right. You guys are going to be okay. It's all right. You guys are all right. It's okay. It's all right. Relax. You guys are. I know this ain't easy. I know.
Right now, God, give me strength, God.
Yes.
Lord, give me strength. Lord, I need your strength right now, God. Strength right now, God. It's okay to cry. It's okay to cry. I need my mom's phone.
You know? You know what?
My mom's phone.
Where's your mom's phone?
Oh, God. Oh, God. It's okay. It's okay.
And that's what Susan Lorincz did to that family. Brings us to our final question tonight in our investigation. How is the family doing now? Here to help answer that question, Anthony Thomas. He is the attorney representing Pamela Dias, the mother of AJ, Owens, and the Owens family. Anthony, thank you for joining us. How is the family doing? I think we've lost the connection with Anthony Thomas there. We'll give it a moment, folks. But I purposely played that moment and extended it for everyone. I didn't want to cut it short because I wanted everyone to understand what actually happens in these stories, in these cases that we cover. Those are 4 children finding out, and that's the moment they find out their mom's not coming back. And from that point forward, their lives are changed so drastically. And you think back, why did this happen? Why did this moment happen? It happened, and you go back to the beginning, it happened because children are playing football and roller skating in the neighborhood. This whole thing began with children playing football and roller skating outdoors with one another in this neighborhood, which is full, absolutely full, because I've seen the body cam videos, you see, full of children. They're doing exactly what we want them to do. You know, and this isn't happening in every neighborhood these days. Kids are isolating themselves, locking themselves up, you know, communicating with each other over text messages. And every parent in America, I know, because I'm one of them, was screaming, and not literally screaming, but hoping and praying and trying to push our kids outside so they would play with the kids in the neighborhood. But it's just not part. This, if you put this video of these kids in black and white, it would be like it's 1950 all over again. What we refer to as the good old days. And that's what was happening in this, and that's how this all begins. And then this moment happens as a result of that, because a woman in the neighborhood can't handle children playing, the sound of voices, being children, and is worried about a roller skate that is left on her property. Wow. We've been able to connect with Anthony Thomas. I'm so glad. We don't have a lot of time left, Anthony, but everyone watching right now, everyone who's watching that Netflix, wants to know, how is that family doing now?
Well, I mean, each family member has its own, his or her own stage and level of grief. I think what you were able to see from that police or sheriff's body cam footage when they were told that their mother wasn't coming back was the first stage. And so it's a hard, very hard thing to deal with, because that's a pain that will never go away. From that moment that you saw those children learn that their mother wasn't coming home, it's been a continuous cycle. Have there been good days? Have there been bad days? Have there been worse days? Of course. Those are the days that are all within those different levels of stress. And the children have all, the grandmother, Pamela, she is dealing with this on a day-by-day basis. She lives with these children. And so it's important for me as the attorney to gauge those different levels of grief. I try my best to understand, because I may have to articulate that level of grief in the form of damages in a civil case. But it's very hard when you just want to console these children and console the grandmother.
Anthony, I hate cutting you off, but we're out of time. Anthony Thomas, give our love to the family. Thank you so much. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll continue digging for the answers as the investigation continues.
There you have it. If you want to see more in-depth reporting on the latest true crime stories, you can see me every weeknight, 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments. Thank you so much for downloading. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.